Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at all for money. Money. We are looking at the latter half, third of the play, where various things to do with money happens. That's primarily what this play is about. It's all for money. It's quite episodic. We dance from different things to do with money to other things that are to do with money in a debating sense, and sometimes in a morality play sense, and sometimes in just a very bizarre sense. So we don't really know where this is going, and we don't know if we're going to interact with too many recurring characters. I warned last time the possibility that we might have some anti-Semitism popping up. So we have so far not really had that much in the text, but it's about money, and it's the early modern period, so let's just be warned that that may occur. Otherwise, who knows what else might come out of this text. It's a strange one. Reading today, all for money himself, is...
Hello, Francis Cox, actor living in Amsterdam.
Reading Sir Laurence and Godly Admonition today is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm not sure why I'm what I'm saying anymore.
Reading Sin today is...
Hi, Alan Scott, based in Suffolk.
Reading Nicole, Dives and Charity today is...
Rachael Nicole, actor in New Jersey.
Reading Money, Virtue and William is...
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Moneyless, Damnation and Humility is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, I'm a historian, and I'm in Hull.
And reading Gregory, Graceless, Mother Croote and Judas today is...
Hello, I'm Valentina. I'm an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading stage directions and generally keeping everything moving forward. Without further ado, we're going to dive into the first scene that we're looking at. We've just had a very formal debate between various people with or without money and or an education. And we dive now back to a return of a character we did encounter yesterday, the personification of money, cometh in puffing.
I was never so weary since the hour I was born. There is none at all but do crave me even and mourn. I never rest night nor day. I am ever busy when everyone doth play. Few blind matters, but I must be at their daying. If I speak the word, it is done without praying. Since I was here last, I swear by this life, I have made many a crooked matter straight. The thief that all night was robbing and stealing, if I bear him witness, was all night in his bed sleeping. A man's wife that was taken in bed with another could have no harm when I did excuse her. When I spake, she was taken to be of good behaviour, and they that found her were set by the heels for their labour. There was a man killed, and 20 witnesses by, but I said he killed himself with his own dagger truly. And when I had spoken, every one held his peace. And then the officers, the murderer, did release. So that I have been to many so friendly, that well as he can get me on his side to be. I have so many suits and matters in hand, that I would fain have an helper by me fast to stand.
And here cometh in Sin the Vice.
I have been since I was here in many a nation, so that I could not come to any town nor city, but I and my kindred are in great estimation. I hold up my finger, you may trust me. 'Tis a great matter that makes me to lie, and as I came homeward, I told these news to the devil, who was very glad to see us bear such rule.
May I be so bold to know of what kindred, or else from what stock you are proceeded?
The lot of stocks I was in was even at Banbury. They be worm-eaten, which showed them ancient to be. If they were mine, because they be so old, I would burn them in winter to keep me from the cold.
I meant of what degree you were descended.
I promise you I am come of an high and mighty kindred. I know not my grandfather, for I never yet saw him. But pleasure is my father. Sir, do you not know him?
What, my son Sin? I never saw thee before. I am thy grandfather Money, which sits by thee great store.
Harry, sir, it is time on my merry bones to kneel. Blessing, blessing, grandfather, of you I do ask. But take heed that none of it hit my left heel. For I promise you, I have a great and fervent task.
I am glad to see thee so merry, my child Sin. It doth rejoice me to see such one of my kin.
Nay, then the fairest bird of all the generation is mine own son and heir, my fair son, Damnation. Such a one as he is, you have seen but a few. Never trust me again if I tell you not true. His face doth shine as bright as the buttock of a bear. He hath a beautiful face in the night, when the moon shines not clear.
I pray thee, when didst thou see my son Pleasure thy father?
I did not see him of late, but I heard from him by the carrier. In faith, Father Money, to put you out of doubt, there is no place in the world but he bears a great rout. But methinks I heard you complain very lately, that through great pains and travail you were very weary.
I would I had a special friend that for me would take pain. He should for his pains be sure of too much gain.
Marry, sir, I have a special friend in store, that will not for any man than for you do more. For he hath such a mind and a great love to money, that he will do anything for you by and by.
What is his name? And then I shall know whether he be able to do for me or no. A man he is to whom nothing can come amiss.
In every kind of thing he hath experience, doubtless. All for money is his name. You know him full well. For this your business, all other he doth excel.
Marry, that is he that I wish for only. There is nothing at all but he will do it for me. I pray you call him, for he will not long tarry. If he wist I were here, so to me is he friendly.
What all for money comes hither with all speed. My grandfather Money tarries for you to help him at need.
Here cometh in all for money in haste, apparelled like a ruler or magistrate.
Marry, that is well. Should money tarry for me? Nay, it is meet I wait on him both with cap and knee. What would you with me, my lord and master Money? Command what you will, and I will do it speedily.
I have taken such pain as sure hath made me wary. Wherefore I have sent for you my room to supply. What suitors soever come to crave your aid, if they come from me, let them not be delayed. Whatever their matter be, have thereto no regard. But if they come from me, they will you well reward.
Whatever I do for you, I take it for no pain. At midnight I should ride for you in hail, snow, or rain.
There come 1,000 if they do bring game. There cannot come so many, but heal them entertain.
Farewell all for money, in thee is all my trust. You may both make and mar, you may do what you lust.
Here money goeth out, and all for money, sitting in a chair, speaketh.
Now, my friend Sin, a proclamation make. None shall be heard that comes for money's sake.
What be the words that I shall now proclaim?
I have them written here. I will recite them by name. Say after me, and then you cannot miss. You must speak aloud that they may know what it is.
Shall I in my man's voice, or in my boy's voice declare?
So that it be heard, I do not greatly care.
And here, the Vice, and this is quite important stage direction actually for the next flow of lines, because these next lines are alternating between the two of you. So All for Money will read the first line, Sin will read the second, and so forth. But here's the instruction for what you're about to do. We've had this game before in another play. Here shall the Vice turn the proclamation to some contrary sense at every time All for Money have read it. And here followeth the proclamation.
All manner of men that have either matter or suit,
Let them come hither between 9 and 10, and none against them shall dispute.
so they come from money, then they shall be heard quickly.
Be their matter never so wrong, they shall be sped and not tarry.
And that they make speed, he heartily them prays.
For he cannot tarry past 2 or 3 days.
Do you think I shall have any suitors at all? I think my market will be very small.
If you have no suitors on you for to call, I'm sure shortly the heavens will fall. They will not stand, I think, all in this hall, which will come right shortly, and still hereafter shall.
Marry, sir, the more the better for me. If they be 10,000, they shall speed for money.
And before someone knock at the door, I think I was wrong. I think we don't have the it's either improvised or that bit of the text is lost.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a single speech. Sorry, I assumed that it was going to be in this text and we just hadn't formatted it. Though it is absent. So I should have asked Alan to improvise something.
God.
Yeah, no, that's but it is the same game we have had with other criers and proclamations. I cannot remember the play or plays. Eric may, because he remembers such things.
Yeah, there was one in Solomon and Persida, and there was another one when they were looking for the ringlet, I think, or the what do you call it? I can't remember what the word was. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other one was in Revertia Susanna, I think.
Excellent. Helen.
There was a Lily one where one of the boys was mashing up, I think, again, a proclamation.
And yes, I do like the, again, we're getting indicators that there are boys here. Shall I in my man's voice or in my boy's voice declare? I mean, that's not necessarily a fully indicator because it's, do you want me to do it very high or would you like me to do it very low? I think that's the game there. But, yeah, an interesting little bit. It does vaguely refer to, obviously, what happened earlier with the money birthing sin. Albeit indirectly, and so it's a little family reunion. They've never met before, possibly because of doubling reasons. So it wasn't possible. So it's a little family reunion. Money's opening speech was rather good. I quite liked that. Money's so busy. Everyone's using money all the time. It's very liberality and prodigality, that, isn't it? This money's just exhausted. Oh God, so much to do. Alan.
One thing I found was that yesterday we did get quite a bit of regular verse, and this seems to be much more all over the place. It's not following the same rhythms or rhyme schemes as we've seen before, which was part of the reason I was struggling with it, because I was trying to work out where the heck the line breaks and rhymes came.
It didn't read to me as being fundamentally different. But okay, yeah. Anybody else finding a significant difference?
I think it was mainly in the sin pieces where it seemed to have moved away from the more regular pattern.
Yes, it doesn't seem very regular.
Yeah, but I didn't recall yesterday being desperately regular. That was only
It
my point.
it had regular chunks, and then it went a bit off.
Yeah, I'd expect the Vice to be not fully regular, just by the nature of the Vice. As we've already got the intimation that there might be some improvisation from the Vice there as well, though that might just simply be that bit of the text was separate from the main body of the script anyway, so it's not impossible that just got lost. I saw Eric. I'll come to you in a moment. I'll go to Helen first.
I think just we ought to note very much that All for Money is a corrupt judge. He's dressed as a corrupt judge.
Yes. So someone who is only interested in the money and is going to use their position to obtain more, presumably. And yeah, they shout for him. What that line before "all for money" comes on is not fully capitalized. So it's like, "What? All for money? Come here!" They're shouting off stage. I've made a few notes to make that clearer for future reference. Eric, then Francis, then Rachael.
I was going to say, about the rhyme scheme. It's interesting to think about the rhyme because the other characters don't rhyme. Like basically, it's the vice characters that are rhyming, if I remember correctly. The sort of non-vice characters that we had in the previous scene were a bit more. Well, I mean, they had some rhyme, but they didn't have very sort of playful rhyme. There was definitely rhyme in the sort of sin-Satan exchange. I remember that very clearly because it was the whole snotty nose shenanigans.
Very runny nose Satan. Yeah. Renowned for it. I'm just scanning. I don't see all the learning sequence seem to have fairly regular rhyming. It just might be that we just stopped listening to it.
Yeah,
we weren't desperately enervated by that sequence. Francis, then Rachael. You're muted at present.
Just in relation to Helen's point about all for money being a corrupt judge, I noticed that Money's opening speech sort of was mainly about the uses of money for bribery and corruption.
Yeah, it'll get you out of all sorts of scrapes. Well, money, money buys you a lot of justice. It does. Rachael.
The sin says towards the beginning, "If I hold up my finger, you may trust me." What does that mean? What is this gesture? Is this a known gesture that's just fallen out of our colloquialisms, or is this a colloquialism of that time?
Where is this?
It's about 4 lines down from Sin's first speech. If I hold up my finger, you may trust me. It is a great matter that makes me know to lie.
Well, it's if I speak like that, you should trust me. I mean, it's obviously one shouldn't.
Trust me, I'm a lawyer.
Yeah. Isn't that the way, sort of, not politicians, but yes, this is what I told you. You should listen to me because I'm wagging my finger at you. It's very, it's that kind of.
It's either that he's testing which way the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
Yes. Or, I mean, maybe it's a variant of Simon Says.
Yeah. Let us gather more evidence and data. Let's see where this goes. We have a knock at the door. That's where we paused. So they've All for Money has made a proclamation via Sin for all manner of men that have either matter or suit to come along during business hours after several working days. And here, almost immediately, someone knocks at the door.
What good fellow is that which knocks so boldly?
Mary, I am a suitor that comes from money. My name, if you list to know, is Gregory Graceless, that cut a man's purse and look in his face.
If your personage be as handsome as your qualities be good, the hemp for your hanging begins for to bud.
Let him in, I pray thee. Let me see what he is. If he come from money, he shall not speed amiss.
And here cometh in Gregory Graceless, like a ruffian, and speaketh.
God save you, my lord, I am come from money, who wills you to help me out of my troubles quickly.
What is the matter? Rehearse it in brief.
My neighbours say they will hang me because I am a thief. The last night I chanced to take a budget with £200 and maimed also the party that they think he will die. The budget with money I did hide in the ground, so that they missed it although they took me. Therefore, for your aid, to you now I fly, and the one half shall you have for saving my life, and the other must keep my house, my children, and my wife.
Deliver the money to this, my friend Sin, and take this token to show that with me thou hast been.
Here he shall deliver him a paper, and Sin, and he goeth forth.
This is good luck at the first beginning, to have so much money. It is an honest living. Methinks suitors in coming are very slack, such as this first was. I think I shall lack. I could sit in the cold a good while, I swear, or I would be weary such suitors to hear.
Sin cometh back in and saith,
My lord, all for money. Here is another cheat. It's better than the first, yea, or else as great.
Let them come in, whoever they be. If your grandfather sent them, mine old friend money.
Nay, the party now doth lie now sore sick in her bed. My father doth will she be spared, and she hath given me for you £100 and more. Shall her neighbours be able to hurt her therefore?
Nay, let them do to her the worst that they can. Tell me her matter, and I will release her then.
She is a fair young woman and very full of favour. She began to be coltish, so that one must ride her. And the thing she played for did after so prosper, that her belly was full, as lately did appear. And she, fearing lest thereby she should be slandered, killed her child after she was delivered. But as she conveyed it, by some it was spied, and so it's found whereby the truth was tried.
What this matter is not so great. Well, for money's sake, that she have no harm, myself will undertake. They that should give evidence shall be all tongue-tied, and the 12 men shall find her guiltless. Let her not be afraid.
For a whore to have a child, it is but a small matter, and after it is born, the same to kill and murder. Is not my grandfather money of great power and might, that such a crooked matter so quickly can make straight?
Now Moneyless and Friendless knocketh at the door.
Who is that knocks in such great post-haste?
One that without my lord's help away is like to be cast.
Let him come in, let me hear his matter. If he come from money, he shall not lose his honour.
O my lord, as I came by an hedge the last night, of a few rags and clothes I chanced to have a sight, the which when I had viewed with me I then took, which were not worth a crown, I dare swear on a book. And I have a rich neighbour that threats me very sore, that I shall be hanged right shortly therefore.
Be merry, good fellow, and be not afraid. It were pity thou were hanged for such a trifle. Who will do thee hurt if I be on thy side? They were as good, nay, as once thy goods to rifle.
Goods soon be rifled, I think he hath none at all. It appears he is simple, the robbery was so small. To come hither for help, who put it in thy mind?
By my troth, sir, myself, for I have none other friend.
Did not my grandfather Money in haste send thee hither?
I'm not acquainted with him. I will not be found a liar.
What art thou called, whereabouts thou dost dwell?
I am moneyless and friendless, as many one can tell.
Alas, poor soul, what did thou coming hither? I think for all thy comfort thou art never the better.
I can do thee no good. I did mistake thy matter. Thou art come hither in vain. Thou hast lost thy labour.
You promised me that I should not be troubled.
By my troth, for all that thou art like to be hanged, if the law should not be executed of thieves and robbers, men should not live in quiet for loitering lubbers.
Shall I tell thee one thing in thine care, sirrah? Thou art sure shortly to play sursum corda.
I trust, sir, you will not go against your word.
Get thee hence, prating knave. I can do thee no good.
God have mercy on us. Without a man have money, he shall be cast away for a trifle we see. But the thieves and robbers that with money be stored escape well enough. But the poor thieves be hanged.
And here he goeth forth.
Ah, sirrah, here was a suitor that was not for my profit. None such were appointed to come by the proclamation. We should make a wise market, if for such we should sit. They shall starve and hang, before of such I have compassion.
Through him you shall see none after will come, unless they have money, either more or some. Is not my grandfather money, think ye, of great power, that could save from hanging such abominable whore, that against all nature her own child did kill? Thus you may do for money what mischief you will, and yonder poor knave that did steal for his need a few sort of rags, and not all worth a crown, because he lacks money, shall be hanged for that deed. You may see my grandsire is a man of renown. It were meet when I named him that you all kneel down. Nay, make not so strange, for the best of you all do love him so well, you will come at his call.
But before somebody else knocks on the door, I think we've got a handle on this scene. It's the various people coming to the judge for help or judgment, and we're going from people who have money, who are right dishonourable people, and those who try to get money, justice without money. So Helen is sent packing, but Valentina there, who's robbed someone, maimed him in the process, but luckily you hid the money before they caught you, so you've got something to bargain with. You know, you've got a house, wife, and children to look after. There's priorities. That seems fine. Whereas Moneyless,
And friendless.
yeah, and friendless. Yeah, I don't think there's a separate person called Friendless coming in with you.
No. But moneyless and friendless it's important because an enormous amount was based on kinship and friendship links. So if you have powerful friends or good friends, then you can get away with a lot more than if you are friendless.
Mm. So thou art shortly to play Sursum Corda, which we've had as in various plays. It turned up in Jack Straw. It's turned up every so often. Yes, hangingness. Not going to go well. Not going to go well for you. Other thoughts on these little revolving door of people, some of whom don't come on stage, some of them are just in the office, they're just in the waiting room, just got the paperwork for this a fair young woman, very full of favour. She doesn't get to come on stage, I suspect, again for doubling reasons. I'm really leaning into there's only 4 people in this company because that gives you 3 people on stage, the 4th one getting changed. It explains the mechanics of this entire play if it's that small a company. It may not be. I may be wrong. I haven't done the maths yet properly. I haven't done a proper chart. Alan?
Yeah, the interesting thing is that compared with yesterday, this is now moving at a much better pace, which is possibly why it's slightly more interesting. Because yesterday we were getting huge slabs of material, whereas now we're getting much more conventional dialogue.
Well, yesterday we did have large slabs. We also had stuff that was like this. I mean, I think this is fundamentally of the same school as all of the stuff with money giving birth to various other people, vomiting them forth It's very similar in style to the Sin and Satan sequence. It is completely different to the Learning Without Money and the opening prologue and the opening bit with theology, etc. So this play seems to have two speeds, depending on which episode you're in.
Also, this is practical, and the other was theoretical. I mean, the academic debate was theoretical largely. I mean, the practicalities occasionally popped up.
There was a practical demonstration of what they spent 10 minutes debating, so that it was the question of, you had someone with no money, are you going to give them some money? Yes, I am. No, I'm not, as a sort of coda to everything that was said before. But otherwise it was relatively static. Other thoughts? We still have more people on at the door. There's someone knocking at the door. Any other thoughts? Eric?
It feels very like sort of maybe not set up for a comedian exactly, but like sort of there's one or two people who are really, really good at gags or sort of building up to something. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe it's like sort of a way of getting them to get stage time or something, because it's very, very quick. I don't know. Maybe that's just
Yeah, it's the Sin there is the primary money, funny man, because that's what the Vice is for. All for Money is really interesting in this sequence as well, of just going, just sitting there going, oh, can we just screen the time wasters, please? Can we just make sure can they just starve to death in the waiting room? That'll be nice, because I really don't want to be bothering with them. I just want the people with the money, please. That's what I'm here for. So yeah, that fast pop again. It's the dynamic. If you've got the same people just coming in with a different hat on every couple of minutes, then there's almost a game to that in itself, of just going, oh, who am I playing now? Has a certain joie de vivre to it. Any other thoughts, Rachael?
I don't know, just this sequence with the woman who's killed her baby that she's had, not from that time period, but I just feel like that contemporary perspective on this type of thing is different. It just, like, what do you call it? In parts of the United States, it's harder to get an abortion than in others. And that this sort of women's rights to their, to abort a child is something that, prevents this type of thing. So I don't know, that's just the sort of thing that, I don't know, it brings to mind as to something that back then I think is more of a black and white issue, just from this contemporary perspective has, I don't know, something deeper or grayer about it, or more sympathetic.
It is a different world, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do a modern dress version of this, because it's an entirely different context. Helen, did you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say about infanticide that in an age where pregnancies that were socially disastrous would be hidden, and also in an age where an enormous number of babies were stillborn or died in the first couple of weeks, there will have been a lot of women who were charged with infanticide who were unable to prove that it wasn't them, but the baby died naturally. And there will have been an enormous number of women who had actually killed their child but got away with it, and everything depended on who would go into court and speak to your character and to the fact that you were that you had revealed your pregnancy to somebody. Walter Scott wrote a book about it, Heart of Midlothian.
Ah, yes.
A little later.
Yes,
Considerably later.
Very different time period. But yeah, that does raise all sorts of questions about the context in which that is being delivered and the attitude that's talking about. We will move forward, however. There is another knock at the door. So we have a different legal problem has arrived. Will Money be able to solve it? Knocking at the door, and it's going to be William with the two wives. So, all for Money, answer the door, please.
Methinks I do hear one knock at the door. He shall find me his good master, if he not be too poor.
Softly in the mischief. Who made you so bold?
I am William with the two wives. I have brought my lord gold.
Let him in, I will his matter hear. I will dispatch him quickly, he need not to fear.
Yes, the magic word of I brought gold. Here cometh in William with the two wives, dressed like a countryman, and speaketh.
My lord, for money, I have brought you such a token, that I trust from my trouble I shall soon be holpen. 40 old angels I trust will you please, beseeching you therefore my matter to ease.
Here shall he reach him a purse.
I have felt thee already, now let me hear thee. Whatever thy matter be, I will soon speed thee.
Barry, he hath 2 wives, and I think he would have another.
He shall have 2 more, if it be his pleasure.
I have 2 wives, I must needs confess. I have too many by one, I had rather have less. To say truth to my first wife, I have most right. But I cannot love her, I swear by this life. I married her only for her goods and riches. She's an old crust, none would marry her for love. Her mouth would slave her ever when I did her kiss. Therefore to take another my mind did me move, who is both young and honest, as her deeds do well prove. But the bishop doth trouble me, whereby I know well, he will have me again with that old jade to dwell.
Tired by jade by thee, I think she hath not been, for is she properly a jade that have been overridden. And because thou hast spared her now, she is fresh and lusty. Therefore hire her out for a hackney, and she will bring thee money.
The devil shall ride her, if I set her out to hire. I would she were with him in the midst of hell fire.
Hadst thou any riches by her, any lands or woods?
I had 300 pounds by her, besides her other goods.
She may be very glad that on thee her goods did spare, that would let her forth to be the devil's hackney mare.
So I were rid on her, I cared not where she came.
Thou shalt be sped herein, even as thou dost require. I will find means with witness to be proved, that she before her marriage to another was betrothed, whereby with thy young wife thou shalt live at ease. Thou mayst thank money, my old friend, I wis, and or else thou mayst trust me, I would not have done this.
I thank you, sir, heartily, for the pains you have taken. I will remember you every year with a Christmas caper.
And here he goeth forth.
These be goodly old angels, take heed you do not lose them. Have they not pretty wings that could fly into your bosom?
I will keep them safe enough, I must needs love them. It is a crooked matter that I will not make straight for them.
Nicole, never out of the law, knocks at the door.
There is some jolly suitor, do you not hear him knock? Softer, sir, softer, lest you break the lock.
Let him in quickly, whatsoever he be. If money have sent him, he is welcome to me.
Here cometh in Nicole, never out of the law, like a rich franklin with a long bag of books by his side.
Come near to my lord and tell him of your matter. Did my grandfather Money will you to come hither?
I think I had come in vain unless he had sent me. Sir, here is a dozen Portuguese, if you will help me.
Here he reacheth him something in a bag.
Now I am ready to hear thee tell it out along. I will help thee without doubt, be it right or wrong.
Either right or wrong, thy matter must needs be. Therefore thou mayst speak. Thou speedest, I'll warrant thee.
There is a poor knave by me hath a piece of ground, not worth by year past 3 or 4 pound, and I have at the villain such hate and spite, that I would have it from him, although it be his right. The land lieth so handsomely at the back of my house, that I am as greedy thereof as cat of a mouse.
By what right and title do you the same claim?
His name is Nicholas, we are both of one name, but no kin at all I am sure he is to me. Yet, though my title be naught, I will weary him with money. The law is open, I am sure, for every man. Marry, let him make his plea as well as he can. Do not many give over their titles in a year, some for want of money, and some for very fear.
Is here all the title you have, good man Nichol? Thou carest not, so thou hast what becomes of thy fall.
So that I have it, I care not for hereafter. When I am dead and rotten, it will be good for my children.
It is a good wind that blows no man to evil, but happy are those children whose father goes to the devil. No good plea herein, I think thou camest in vain.
Do you not think that I have feigned a dissent? And thereby claim a right that never was before? The rich may soon overcome the moneyless and the poor, and yet that I shall lose it, I surely am afraid, unless you cause judgment the next term to be stayed.
I will get it stayed. I have thee now promised.
But in the mean space, see that you have writings forged, and also false witnesses, 2 or 3 at the least, who may swear, if need be, thou hast bought his interest. And this way thou art sure to have thy desire. Go about thy business, dry wood soon catcheth fire.
Marry, sir, this is the way that must needs prevail. I thank you, sir, heartily for telling me this tale.
I wis in my purse begins to fill.
Nay, it will be fuller if you may have your will.
And before we have somebody else knocking at the door, let's discuss these two claimants. Nicole having just gone out. Alan?
I'm just wondering whether there's a misplaced line there, because the line, I will get it stayed, would seem to be more appropriate for all for money rather than for sin.
Where was that?
One speech back.
I will get it stayed, I have thee now promised. But in the mean space, see you have writings forged. Yes, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll look at that. We have had a few lines slip from one thing to another, so that's entirely possible. Yes, so I've just written next to the whole sequence with William just... Yikes! Yeah, what a horrid conversation. I mean, this is leaning in that sort of direction where of almost really extreme satire, or that's the excuse the author may have for this depiction, because it's using some really loaded. I do like the bit at the end, though. I do like William is going to remember him every year with a Christmas cape on. I think that's a thing we should all remember to do. Remember to give people Christmas capons. But yeah, the language used about the women in William's life is just horrific. So yeah,
I'm sure we've seen a very similar line or sequence before, and I can't think where.
Nothing's leaping immediately at me. I mean, it's the or not quite as explicitly, just so grim. Francis.
Yeah, I was interested in William's opening speech because it dealt with polygamy, and I just wondered what the was polygamy quite common at this time? That's a question for Helen.
Helen.
Theoretically, no. Practically, surprisingly, yes, because if you kind of lost touch with a previous spouse, there was a tendency to try and forget that they'd ever existed. It comes up a lot later. There was a time, late century or so later than this, maybe a little more, where practically every case at the Old Bailey was bigamy, because the divorce was so impossible. And so people were just being bigamous. But here you've got he wants to do it sensibly. He wants to get his first marriage annulled on the grounds of pre-contract, which may bring to mind other people who tried to have their first marriage annulled on the grounds of pre-contract. No names, no pectoral.
Yes. And then we get this land-grabbing Nichol, Nicholas.
He is a nasty piece of work.
Mm. Well, everyone who has money is a nasty piece of work. I mean, I think that's the general theme of the play. I mean, I think someone put in the chat that there's no sympathy for anyone in this play, and this play is not. It's a harsh round the edges play, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's really. It's really going for different targets in a very aggressive fashion. Mm. This is it's full of grotesquerie, this strain of this play, with the vomiting earlier as well. There's subtlety would be wasted, I feel, in this text. It's not what it's leaning towards.
But I can find in Star Chamber, in the reign of Elizabeth, examples of every single one of these. I mean, none of this is invented. Well, it's all completely real.
Well, this is why I was thinking this might have an interesting educational crossover, is doing a show where, before we do, the scene is explicatory of a case. And that, we could do parallel texting with this that might be quite an engaging way of working with this play, because we have had problems of discussing what do we do with a text like this, and that might be for this scene actually very effective of comparing.
Legal historians can always use something like this.
Rachael, then Eric.
No, I was I'm sure you have cases like this come up in courts nowadays, but that there's a play like this written, was there an issue with corruption and with just that
the system was by its nature, it was set up to be corrupt. I mean that it was inherently corrupt. There's no, in a sense it's just the question of where do you put the boundaries of what you determine as being corrupt. It's quite difficult to do.
Yes, in theory it wasn't corrupt. In practice it was, and this was winked at because people would have to pay to get jobs, because those jobs got the opportunity to get fees and bribes. And it was very cheap for the government to rely on the judges being able to extort their own salaries. But on the other hand, if that judge later needed to be brought into court and destroyed for some reason, then all this corruption could be brought against him. And there it was, really useful. Just
Eric.
prove a bit of it and you've got him.
Well, basically, Helen has answered my question. I was going to ask, like, sort of whether there have been cases of where, like, sort of justices of high import were caught in this time. And well, I mean, obviously, there are modern ones as well. Like, modern parallels. We don't need. I can probably think of. We can probably think of.
Yes, except that the higher you got, the less likely you were to be destroyed by it. I mean, what would happen would be that you would have put the foot wrong in your county, and some other magnate had more pull with the Privy Council.
Anyway, we still have more case studies to go. I think we'll call this legal case studies. I think that's going very nicely. There's another knock at the door for Sin and All for Money. Sin, I think you're mid-speech.
Yes. Another suitor there, I hear him knock again. Shall he come in, sir, to tell his grief and pain?
To come to me quickly, see that he do not spare. If he comes from money, well falls out his share.
Here cometh in Sir Laurence Livingless, like a foolish priest, and speaketh.
Sir, I have a petition to your lordship to make, trusting you will be good to me for Master Money's sake.
Thou canst not come for anything to me, but I will do it gladly for the love of money.
I have a present here, not worthy for you to receive, but I give you with all my heart, even such as I have. 100 dirge groats, they be good silver and old. I have kept them so long they begin for to mould.
Here he reacheth him something.
It is very near day when such birds fly.
Were wont to say mass for a groat, but now they're dearer to buy. I pray thee, what is thy name? Art thou either vicar or parson?
Sir Laurence Livingless, without either living or mansion.
By the mass, I thought thou wast even such another. I knew by thy countenance thou wast never doctor. But thou hast been a doctor at the ducking of women. He hath ever had a good zeal to kerchiefs and linen. I promise you he is very well learned, if you list to oppose him, but must not be in Greek, Hebrew or Latin. A cure he is able sufficiently to discharge. He can read very well upon a pair of cards.
I am none of the best learned, it is but folly to flatter.
In faith, Sir Laurence, I think you must play the carter, or else you must be a hedge priest, beggars to marry, which isn't easy living, but you must fare hardly. How didst thou with the bishop, when he did oppose thee?
Harry, I did so answer him that he did depose me from all my benefices and livings with his power and might. He would not once suffer me to serve a cure by this light. Therefore, good lord, I heartily you require help me to some living according to my desire.
Do not fear, my priest, for wanting of any living. I have devised already which way it shall come in. My chaplain thou shalt be, for here do I thee make, and benefice thou shalt have, none shall from thee it take.
Now God reward your lordship in heaven, may you it find. But one thing I had forgotten, which now comes to mind. At every visitation when I shall be opposed, for want of sufficient learning, I shall then be discharged.
Before every visitation, be sure to come for my letter, which when the Chancellor sees, straightways thou shalt have favour.
The proudest of them all shall not make me now to shrink. The pots shall walk none. I will full merely drink.
How many planets, Sir Laurence, is there in the third heaven?
Nay, I know how many cards I have when I have played all 7.
I'll say you by Sir Laurence, is he not well skilled in the science of arithmetic when the cup is new filled? How many chapters in the Gospel did St. Matthew write?
Marry one and all his fellows that I can quickly recite.
Pray thee, tell me truly, how many did he write in all?
Would you fain know the truth, you would best ask that wall.
Thou hast not very much studied that gospel, because the number of the chapters thou cannot not tell.
No, nor the other gospels, but a little I have studied. Other things much more I have been occupied.
How many epistles did Paul write after he was converted?
By the mass, he wrote too many. I would they were all burned. Had they not been and the New Testament in English, I had not lacked living at this time, I wish. Before the people knew so much of the scripture, then they did obey us and loved us out of measure. Now we cannot go in the streets without a mock. The little boys will say, Yonder goes Sir John Smock. A boy called me once amongst 20 people and more, and indeed I smelled his mother's not 2 hours before. Another boy, a priest so, and called the priest so, and the priest spake again quickly. I never smelled thy mother's smock, but when I begat thee.
Of truth, Sir Laurence, in thy time thou hast been good. For lack of winter liveries, thou hast given many a Christmas hood.
Well, my friend Sin, carry Sir Laurence home. He shall be also my steward, which is an honest man's room.
Indeed, the honesty of the man may make the room better, but the room cannot make Sir Laurence the honester.
Here the priest and the vice goeth out.
I have filled my purse meetly well this day. I do not intend much longer for suitors to stay. One other good cheat would make me pack up and be gone. It is a marvel without suitors I am so long alone. Methink it is no trouble for all my long sitting, as long as money thereby I may be fingering.
Sin cometh in and speaketh.
Marvel then no suitors have been here all this while. There is coming to seek you one that dwells many a mile.
Here one other doth knock.
There is one other doth knock, whatever he be. If he come from money, he shall be welcome to me. To me they do come, therefore let him in. Open the door quickly, I pray thee, good Sin.
Here cometh in Mother Croote, dressed evil-favoured like an old woman. She shall be muzzled and have a staff in her hand and go stooping. And she speaketh.
God save all, and our blessed lady. Who is this gentleman that will do all things for money?
Come hither, Mother Mabel, your terms you do misuse. To see you come so far, methinks it is strange news. But what is your name, Mother? My lord would have you tell.
Marry, chill my life, son, but ich do not hear you well. Everyone that knows me do call me Mother Croote. Cham 100 years old, cha can scantly go on foot.
Oh, what is your matter, mother? Tell me, and do not spare. If Barney sent you hither, the better shall you fare.
He did send me to you, and I may say to you, Chafe brought you hither the price of a good fat cow. Have here is 4 old royals, would they were a score. Before yesterday, I did not see them, these 20 year and more.
Here she giveth him the money.
Yea, marry, Mother Croote, they be 4 good royals of gold. If you knew them not this 20 years, it is a marvel they did not mould.
When ich put my hand in my coffer, ich might then feel them, but ch'ave been blind these 30 years, so that ich could not see them. Therefore she'll conclare the cause of my coming hither.
Claire, you should say, Mother, for that is right speaking.
You can conclude the matter much better than I.
You should say conclude, Mother, but it's not much awry.
Shave, you may see, be brought up amongst swine and kye, she'll now declare the cause of my coming.
Go then, Mother Croote, and I will give you the hearing.
Because chum rich and have something to take too, there came of late a young sprignel me to woo. Now he's a wholesome young man of 20 years old and 3. It doth me good to think on him by our blessed Lady. He made full much on me, and loved me God wot. And shall love him again, even at the heart root. And so that we plight our throats each to other, and so at prevenient time to marry together.
It is convenient, Mother Croote, but it makes no great matter.
You may see, sir, old women have much clitter-clatter, but I pray you, good sir, bear with my business.
I know, Mother Croote, your meaning is rudeness.
Whatsoever I say, my meaning is no less. But my husband was so well favoured, that a young drab of him was enamoured, who said unto him that it was a great shame for him to marry such an old belled dame. And thus this young drab my husband enticed, to whom she doth hope right shortly to be married. But chad rather the young whore were quick at the devil, than she should have my husband, my sweetheart and jewel. My love in my youth was never so fervent, as it is on my sweetheart now at this present. Shall I never buss my sweetheart again? Nothing in the world would make me so fain.
Go up with a galled back, come up to supper. You'll my old mare must have a new cropper. A meeter marriage than this did I never see, for she is not past 80 years older than he.
I wish but one night with him for to lie. Oh, he would make me look young by and by.
When I was a boy, it was an old saying that an old sack would lack much clouting and perching. Oh, it doth, Mother Croote, much good to have her bones rattled, and specially by her lover, and then her mind was settled. When you be with your husband, you will be as good as a charm. If my wife were of your age, it would do her little harm.
Yeah, but he is good in my bed to keep my back warm, and now and then she'll kiss him and clip him in my arm. Therefore, my lord, for your friend's money's sake, that I may have my husband, I pray you undertake.
He is more meet your son than your husband to be.
Yeah, but the younger he is, the better he is for me.
Yea, but you are the worse for him, the elder you are. Therefore he will labour other, and you for holidays spare. I pray you, my lord, Mother Croote help to speed. For this young man she standeth very great need.
A couple of false witnesses must therefore be hired, which must say they heard when you were betrothed, and then will he must be compelled to forsake the other, and to you be married.
There will no such be got, my dear heart root.
Enough for money, I warrant you, Mother Croote.
Now God's dear blessing light on that sweet face of yours, which tarried too long by 2 and 3 hours. No chill desire from hence to depart.
And here Mother Croote goeth forth.
Now farewell, Mother Croote, even with all my heart.
Do you not see yonder, old Mother Croote, would as fain be trod as a younger pullet? How will her husband do when he should kiss her? Her nose and her chin meets almost together. Oh, she will be a trim bride that day she is wed. One would think she smiled if her teeth were in her head.
I have had this day a trim sort of suitors. How many sent I away with money in their purses? My purse is now full, even unto the brink. Now it is high time for me to eat and drink. Have not I been friendly to your grandfather Money? All such as he sent, they were dispatched quickly.
Many such days you may have when you will, whereby all your bags and coffers may be full still.
I intend again shortly to sit in commission. I pray God I speed no worse then than now I have done.
And here all for money goeth out, and there we'll pause because we have 2 people to discuss, of which There is much to say. In many ways, I really like Mother Croote. I don't like what people are saying about Mother Croote, but I think Mother Croote has got the right idea. I don't care whether the play thinks she does. She's a sterling person. We should see more of. Rachael, do you want to go in first? Then Alan.
No. Is Mother Croote one of William's 2 wives?
No, I think she's a separate case.
Okay.
Yeah. Alan.
Yeah, the gambling priest, I'm sure we've had before in something else, and we've also had a very, very similar character to Mark Croote.
Well,
I think possibly in Mother Bombay.
Maybe to a degree. I mean, they are all stereotypes in that sense. You know, this play is working off very specific things. You're absolutely right about the Sir Laurence figure. We have met this kind of corrupt hedge priest type person before, and I forget which play. I'm sure Eric will be able to pluck the name out of it. It wasn't that long ago. We had a wonderful tavern scene that featured a priest. That worked incredibly well of its own right, and there's elements of that works really nicely here.
The gambling scene.
Yeah,
he's playing cards and he sends his curate to
cover for him.
Yeah,
you do the mass. It's fine. You'll be fine. I'll be back later. I'll do the amen.
Or his sexton, I think it was actually on this curate.
Yeah, he basically said someone woefully ill qualified to do his job for him. So we again, let's say we got these very nice character sketches, and then we've got the sort of comedy patter from Sin and All for Money, some of which is really problematic. You know, for what we, I mean. I like Mother Croote because Mother Croote's got this, using the wrong word a lot thing. But, I just think she's a post-structuralist. It's fine. The context, words don't have an absolute meaning. They only have a meaning based on the context in which you place them. That's her position. And I think she's allowed to hold it. Valentina.
Yeah, building on that, I was about to ask, is it meant to be a particular accent? Because I know we've found him before, but I could, obviously, say reading, I could not make a sense of it.
It's standard rustic. It's early modern mummers there.
Yeah, so Chill is Isle, Cham I am, and
Ick is I.
And we usually go for an Ike rather than Ick.
No, I understood the words, but I could not find an accent pattern. I was like,
oh right,
think the Archers.
Yeah, it's a non-specific generic that sort of thing.
Like rural.
Yeah.
It's misogynist.
Helen.
Yeah, I was quite interested in play because of the what had happened to the priest. He was obviously a Marian priest, because he'd been saying mass for, and he'd got all these fourpences, silver fourpences in his bag for it. And the price had, yes, and the price had gone up by this time. But his problem was that he was completely uneducated, and the church at this time was really, really trying hard to improve the quality of the priests. It was quite difficult because they were short of candidates, but the visitations were becoming more and more strict. And if you couldn't read, all right, they accepted that most couldn't manage Hebrew, but if you had no Latin, and if you couldn't read the English prayer book properly, and you weren't well studied in it, then the aim was to get rid of you. So this was part of a movement.
And that brief reference, of calling them, Sir John, is a callback to that sort of generic name for any kind of slightly dodgy priest going back many years. Alan.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the reference to the English Bible, which makes me think that he got through his previous career largely on gobbledygook, which was cod Latin, possibly at best, done by rote. And as long as you make it sufficiently theatrical, the congregation ain't going to notice.
Which maybe puts this at a slightly earlier date than I was thinking initially. Just that crossover between, Mary and into Elizabeth is quite a long way away if we're 1577. Potentially this could date back to 1558 perfectly happily.
I think it's later than 50. I mean, I get a feeling for later than 58 because 58. Thomas Cromwell had a massive sets of visitation to try and improve the clergy, but that had rather died out. And there was a visitation in 58-9, but really I think we're talking about maybe 1570. He's had this bag of groats for a long time.
Yes, he talks about it having mould. I've kept them. I do like that, the way he says it's very near day when such birds fly. That's a telling line. I like that. There's lots of interesting one-liners. Actually, we haven't really been mentioning some of the really nice. How many epistles did Paul write after he was converted? By the mass, he writ too many. We've had that feeling with a couple of texts this week. Honesty of the man may make the room better, but the room cannot make Sir Laurence the honester. There's some really nice lines in amongst that. There's some really cutting lines as well. Other thoughts? The language Sin uses about Mother Croote is really aggressive and weirdly modern actually in certain elements. It's striking. Helen.
Yeah, I have started now transposing the genders whenever we get a piece like this. It would be extremely different if you had this 100-year-old man marrying a 23-year-old woman. The whole dynamic, everything about it would be very different.
Rachael.
I was gonna say something about that is that some of these lines that are clever. It's what you said. They're very cutting more than I think funny. And so like these things that they're saying about Mother Groot and not Groot. Put that in the chat. Croote. And about what Sir Laurence says about somebody's mother, that he knows the smell of her smock. I think he's calling her a woman of the night, a lady of the night, making that implication. Is that because there is these cutting one-liners, that this misogynistic element comes out and is a little nastier than funnier towards some of our lady characters. And also I wonder if there's some, I'm sure they're not exaggerating her age and that they have the Mother Croote dressed they're age shaming her, ageism or something, but to call her four score, they're highly exaggerating this, I think, for maybe comic effect that doesn't land, but it's like Helen said, that it's a double standard that they're slamming her on.
Well, all of these things, we can imagine at the time they probably found this hilarious. Let's not pretend that the past was necessarily a nice place. But if we're thinking about this as a play doubling with extreme doubling, and possibly even played by a very young company, I imagine that she is ridiculously over the top in performance. I mean, utterly grotesque in the way that would be intended anyway. Helen.
She's an interesting example of a centenarian, because she is specifically said to be 100 years old. A 80 is the difference in age between her and the intended young man.
23-year-old.
Yeah, but I have got one or two others who made it to 100. It was not by any means unknown, but it is extreme.
Anyway, we will move on. We will head towards the end. We have a speech by Sin. Then we have actually mostly a number of speeches to close, because that's how we opened. There is some dialogue squeezed in, and we'll see where this goes. So All for Money has gone out. Sin is left with the floor.
Do you not see how all for money is, masters? He helps to make good all wrong and crooked matters. He cares not though at length he go to the devil, so that with money he may his bags fill. His money brings him to pleasure, and pleasures send him to me, and I send him to damnation, and he sends him to hell quickly. And when he is there, he hath got a proper place. Let him cry while his heart aches, he shall have no grace. Oh, it is a goodly house, it is bigger than a grange. It passeth fee simple, for the title doth never change. Therefore, if any will be married to my fair son Damnation, they shall be sure straightways thereof to have possession. Therefore, if any chance to marry my son hereafter, let them not blame me, for I have told his behaviour. Before you proceed, therefore, in this marriage, weigh well with yourself the danger and charge. It is now high time, methinks, to depart. Will none of you speak to comfort my heart? I would have sworn that you had been more mannerly, to match my son with such. I passed not of a fly. My throat, for want of a drink, begins to be dry. Who is it that calls me to drink some good ale? Forsooth, I will be with you by and by. It is Sir Laurence Livingless, £20 to a nail. He will tipple at it solemnly as long as it is stale. And the rather I think it is because of his talk, for he said before his going that all the pots should walk.
Here the vice goeth out, and then rather unexpectedly Judas cometh in, like a damned soul, in black, painted with flames of fire, and with a fearful vizard, and speaketh as followeth.
Oh, woe, woe, that ever on earth I lived! Woe be to that hour when I first was delivered! My guilty conscience pricks me day by day. Judas I was called, that did my master betray. I did see Christ's miracles, and heard his predication. Oh, that I had had grace to be with the rest in salvation! I wanted God's grace and his especial favour, whereby I hanged myself and died in despair, and now the time is past any mercy to crave, 1 half hour to live I would desire but to have. Well, it will not be, nothing will help me now, wherever I do God damnation doth follow. Woe worth that money, that ever it was made, by which occasion my master was betrayed. But had I had grace to have asked mercy therefore, and repented my fault as Peter did before, I should have been pardoned as other sinners be, and accounted no sinner. God will have mercy, so that they ask mercy so long as they do live, all which time he is ready their sins to forgive. Woe therefore to me, and to all that have so died, for without remedy now I am forever damned.
Here cometh in Dives with such like apparel and vizard as Judas hath, who speaketh as followeth.
Oh, it hath belly pleasure brought me unto, to hell torments, to a place of everlasting woe, 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 and woe again to me for evermore, that consumed so much on myself and nothing on the poor. Poor Lazarus was at my door, whose hunger was so great, that he therewith soon died, not having for to eat. When I with all fine fare like a glutton was served, and like a greedy cormorant with belly full farced, not suffering one morsel to Lazarus to be given, and yet was there more spoiled than 100 would eat certain. To feed the dogs therewith I was much better content, or else some relief to him I would have sent. The Sicilian dumb dogs did him more good than I, for they licked his sores, oh woe therefore to me. And then he died full soon, whose death pleased God so well, that in Abraham's bosom I shall rest and dwell. And I then died also without any repentance, whereby I have got God's wrath and heavy vengeance. For I am a damned soul, for ever in torment and pain. My pleasures on the earth hath brought me to this gain. And though the torment be so vehement, and the fiery flame so great, yet I cannot have a drop of water to quench and cool my heat. I denied poor Lazarus to give him meat and food, and now denies me to help or do me good. A woeful change to me, to him it is not so, for he from pain to pleasure passed, and I from weal to woe. For if I were on the earth, as I was once before, I would spare from myself and give it to the poor. What am I the better now for all my joy and pleasure? And what is he worse now for all his pain and hunger? If having all my pleasure at the last I had been saved, my former pleasures had been vain. None doth them there regard, and if in cruel torments all my life I had lain, yet in respect they all are joys to this eternal pain. Damnation. Damnation is coming. Woe to us, therefore, alas, alas, that we had this foreseen before.
And here cometh in Damnation.
Come, come, you woeful wights, 'tis folly now to prate, to speak, complain, or else of matters to debate. Away unto that doleful place, where as the devil lieth, the best cheer that you shall have there is groan and gnash of teeth. Of money thou so greedy wast thy master to betray, and after in despair thou madest thyself away. And thou didst pamper up thy gorge, and poor didst not regard, wherefore thy last assured hope is hell for thy reward. Where is now thy money? Wherefore soldest thou thy master? Where is now thy fare, wherein thou hadst any pleasure? You would not take heed while that you were living, therefore you must pay for it in hell without ending. I think if on the earth you were alive again, you would not from your pleasures for all this refrain. For the most part on the earth do live so wickedly, that they think there is no hell to punish sin truly. In money they have great love, in pride they do exceed, in gluttony and lechery their lives they do still lead.
Oh, if I were on the earth and were alive again, I would be a spectacle to all that there remain. O vain love of money, O most stinking pride, the remembrance of such sin I can now not abide.
If I had but 1 hour in flesh and blood to live, I would 1,000 turn from sin, I certainly believe. Woe worth the pleasures past, that works me now such care, whereby I am a damned soul. Good folk of me beware.
Away, away, you wretched souls, to hell you must needs go, and such as die as you have been shall dwell with you also.
Here Damnation drives them out before him, and they shall make a pitiful noise. They shall make a pitiful noise.
Oh!
Woe,
Lovely, thank you.
woe, and thrice woe.
Okay, yeah, we get some interesting business. Sin having this sort of conversation off with, Sir Laurence livingless, in theory off stage going, hey, I've got the drinks in. So it's, I've got to go. So it's this sort of conversation with the, it's him. He's always doing, kind of patter that is potentially there. And then we get these examples of what money does. These moral examples who've been mentioned in passing earlier, I think. But yeah, Judas, don't sell out people. That's bad. That's what money does to you. Bad things. And then Damnation comes in to chase them all away, drives them out, and they make a pitiful noise. And of course, they're doing that because sin presumably is changing into godly admonition for the next scene. This constant merry-go-round, if it is that constrained, and it just feels like it has to be for the play to function logically. This is a proper production line turnaround. And the masks as well, that they have masks. So it details the masks being used here, but maybe there are other masks being used in play for other parts as well, for quick change. Who has any thoughts on Judas, Dives, or Damnation? Rachael.
I know we have one scene after this, and just from where this has gone, and this scene, and how this is definitely a scene from the our A plot, if we can say there's a B plot, that so much of scene 4 was just could be cut, just could be ripped right out of this, because it's just a philosophizing where this is plot-ish.
Well, yeah, I mean, all of it, it's very bitty all the way through. I mean, it is just constantly dancing from one thing to another. We've just finished the lengthy revolving door scene for various different examples of stuff. And now we go to this. And before that, there was something else. There is a thematic through line, but there isn't a through line to this play at all. Structurally, it's a bit of a mess. Eric?
But it doesn't try to pretend.
No, it's not pretending that it's got a through line. I mean, that's, to be fair, it's not trying.
I was gonna say maybe it's sort of like what do we call this? The sort of promenade plays, or the touring ones that we did, like the sort of religious ones, where they kind of where you move from one scene to the next, because it just like seems to not have any link to the previous stuff necessarily.
I mean, I think they would make more explicit reference to journeying, or they would go from one place to another. Whereas this feels just like it's just constantly turning around in the same space. It's the people who change; the space remains the same. Doesn't mean it couldn't be done in that fashion. I think you could absolutely explode this into, the million or so parts that the play technically has. A fun moral fable for the children. I'm not suggesting that seriously. Rachael.
No, I was just gonna Dives speech. Dives, yeah. I feel like this is a return to sermonizing. Like, this is just this is a small troupe. I know they had all this stuff about priests, but this just sounds like something a priest would say to a congregation.
Yeah, it's this bit is very mystery play. You get two biblical characters and Damnation, so it's a very, very old school mystery / morality play. When literally biblical characters turn up, you can argue that that's very much the point. Helen.
Yes, it's interesting that they don't feel they need to rehearse the story of Dives and Lazarus in any great detail. It's just assumed that everybody knows it from birth. It's, I mean, I can remember being taught it at a very early age. I thought as much.
I think it's
Rachael is not aware of the story.
It's a generational issue, Helen.
Yeah.
You and I think, were brought up in the days when Bible study was sort of core issue.
Dives was a rich man, and there was a poor man at his gate, and Dives would give him nothing, but ate and drank in an ostentatious fashion. And they both died, and Lazarus went to hell and was very thirsty. Sorry, Dives went to hell and was very thirsty, and Lazarus was in Abraham's bosom, which must have been uncomfortable for both of them. And Dives said, "Let Lazarus give me some water." And God, or whoever was in charge at the time, said, "Forget it." Story of Dives and Lazarus.
Also the inspiration for some rather good music.
Francis, you're muted at the moment.
Didn't he also, I think it was, the way I heard it was Abraham was the one who answered Dives. And Abraham, but Dives also said, in that case, can't Lazarus come back from the dead and go and warn my brother and my family?
Yep.
And this is the interesting bit, actually, because then Abraham says, even Lazarus coming back from the dead will not convince your family. And we've kind of had that idea hinted in the play.
Yes. They've had all the prophets, and they took no notice of them. Why on earth should they take any notice of Lazarus? Just
That's
because
right.
he's...
Yeah,
I'd forgotten that bit, but you're right.
Yeah. I didn't realize. I just thought it was a rich merchant. I didn't realize that the rich merchant had a name, Dives.
Eric, yes, you brought up a parallel in the chat.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It basically reflects back to the play itself, where there's the character of money without learning, and he kind of rejects the beggar at the end of. I can't remember which scene it was. Scene 4, maybe.
Scene in the past. Yes.
Yeah.
Scene 3-ish.
The scene of Christmas past.
Yeah, scenes before, in the before times. Anyway, we still have a little bit more text to do, which we will do now. There isn't a lot left. The 3 actors run off stage. The 4th actor comes on. Here cometh in godly admonition.
What heart but must lament to hear the rueful dolour of those 2 damned wights? What hard and stony heart but will hereat repent and pray continually? Yea, both days and nights. Who dies without repentance thus damnation them dites? Therefore happy are they what troubles soever they have, which trust and die in Jesus Christ, though God, whom God will them save. Here have you had inordinate love, which man hath to money, although it work his woe. But such as have any grace will them stir and move, to cast their love for money and other pleasures also, for fear they dwell with the devil, their cruel immortal foe. Too late then to repent, as Judas and Dives did. There is no help in hell for them, then God's mercy is hid. Therefore I am come, called godly admonition, warning you to repent before your breath be gone, for fear you bring yourself to endless damnation. But then there is no hope, although you cry and groan. Therefore, how happy are they that have time to make their move. Now cast away your pride, and also the love of money, for fear you shall not, when you would, as lately you did see.
I am to the godly a precious jewel and virtue. Who can without me virtue be in good favour?
Humility or clemency is my name truly. Blessed, saith Christ, are the meek, for they shall obtain mercy. We may learn humility of Christ, our Master and Head, who bare his cross meekly, whereon he was killed.
Who can live without charity to God's honor and glory? Who without me can die in God's favor? Charity is enemy to all hatred and fury. I cause the rich to help the needy and the poor.
For that you are all three the special gifts of God, without whom none can be a perfect and godly wight. Let us pray, therefore, the sins that God forbode, we may cast away with speed most wicked in his sight. The inordinate love of money and pride, which many delight, and others, all other sins which lead us to damnation, and that we repent and die in Christ, whereby we have salvation.
Let us pray for the Queen's Majesty, our sovereign governor, that she may reign quietly according to God's will, whereby she may suppress vice and set forth God's glory and honor, and as she hath begun godly, so to continue still.
Let us not forget to pray for the honourable council, that they maintain justice and all wrong expel.
And all the high estates and commons of this region, with all that be here present, to have everlasting salvation.
And they all lived happily ever after. The end. That was the message, people. If you hadn't figured out what was going on, that's the takeaway. That's the takeaway. This is what we've learned. Do you all feel morally instructed?
No.
No.
I think we've done much the same material elsewhere and rather better.
Well, I think it's really interesting, this session, the material that we've got, Hammy. It's not to say it's not problematic, but it's really speaking to its time in a really interesting way. And the attitudes and the ideas. I mean, you could see what the author is doing this session a lot clearer than we had yesterday. And the sort of tone that they're going for. And it just feels very juvenile at times. And then also, you know, it does feel like there's a weird range to what this play is doing. It's sort of I'm now finding it a lot more interesting today overall. That's not to say it's a keeper, but there's a lot more to talk about, I think. Alan.
I'm just wondering, I know you've had this idea that this would be played by 4 players. I'm just wondering actually whether it's actually designed for a much larger company, but that each of the company are only in one of the separate units, because there's an awful lot of non-coherent units within the piece, the way I see it. You've got the prologue stands alone. You've got the first set of disputations, which again could stand alone with separate characters. There's not that many characters who recur.
Yeah, I mean, Sin's the problem for that as a structure, unless that's a teacher figure who is there to stay throughout the whole thing. But it seems indicated that Sin is a younger person anyway, from various lines in it. I mean, there's no reason to say it can't be. It's just it seems that the chop logic of the way the play is structured is that it's designed for a very, very small number of people. Because it's not quite as separated as it could be. I wouldn't have Sin as so recurring a character if that was the way I was structuring it. And the fact that there are never more than 4 people on stage at any one time, and people always exit, is in that turnaround. Unless I've done my maths wrong, which I may have done. It's entirely possible.
4, possibly 5.
Which would not be uncommon. You see, that's the thing. It fits within that template that we've got going back, 70 plus years as a way of constructing drama. I mean, that's also why it's hard to build a through line when you've only got 4 actors available. because you can't develop a story separately because you're always trying to turn around to be the next character. It becomes very difficult to develop a coherent narrative over time. And certainly you can't have characters meeting each other beyond a certain number because they can't. It's slightly different to Greek drama where you can use masks to cheat. Though this does use masks, so maybe there is some cheating available. It may be that some of the doubling can be even more extreme because of how that works. Valentina.
Yeah, hearing you talk about this, and like especially with scene 5, it really reminded me of a modern play where it's a small cast, it's a bunch of characters that are all over the top, and by the end of the play, the whole game is that by the end of the play, they start forgetting bits of previous characters when they come in, which always reminds me of like when people forget to change their names on Zoom when they're playing on Zoom. And it's just like, so like, you know, you forget like to change your accent, or you forget to take off your glasses or your moustache or something like that. And I think that would, I mean, if it was a very small cast, that would definitely add to the comedy. But then what do you do when you have these massive preachy speeches?
It's we go from one thing and then we just we hit the brakes on, now the fun's over for 10 minutes. You've had your fun. There was Satan. And now discursive dialogue that is making a moral point in a really different way. I mean, I think we've discussed, I think outside of the recording, that, you know, certain bits of this might function a lot better than it did the other day, for example, where we found it was extremely hard work, and that might just be that the play itself functions better with a bit of spit and polish. I think that, you know, this is a hard sell in anybody's language, though. You know, this is a historically very interesting play. In that sense, Helen.
Yes, on the basis of historically very interesting, that last prayer for the Queen, I think, does put it further back in time than I was saying. So, I mean, I think maybe we're talking about the early 60s.
Well, that's the argument for those who like the earlier date rather than the later. I think the reason people go for a later date is just based on potentially who the author is and what he's writing at other times. But I have to say, it felt slightly earlier to me throughout. It doesn't quite feel like it's a thing from the mid to late 70s to me.
No.
But that's just Scrooge McDuck feeling into the money piles there. That's
yeah, but I mean, if you've got the massive visitation of 59, then I'm just thinking about the dispossessed priest. The 60s would be good for that. Yeah.
But that said, there's often a bit of a lag between, you know, events and artistic reactions to them, so you could always add a few years on top of that. I mean, it's not unimportant because I've got to figure out where I'm going to put it on the website. But, you know,
I'd go for 63 and tell someone to disprove it.
Okay, I'll put that in. Helen says I can put it here. Eric.
Well, no. I was going to say that it's kind of, there's probably this is a bit hypocritical because they kind of have got people to pay for the seats to get into the play. Therefore, isn't that already condemning art as a sort of, or theater as a sort of sin, and that will lead to damnation and all that stuff?
Didn't we have a little bit in the theology, science and art on that point? I think that was covered. I think it's to do with the extremity and the use of it. I think, you know, moderation in all things, as long as you don't go too far. I could be wrong on that point. Someone pick up on me on that if necessary. Francis.
Yeah, in answer to that, I would just say that at the beginning of the play, they did actually say money in itself is not a bad thing. It's the uses that men put it to. that that are evil. So I'm assuming they're not including theatre in that.
Yeah. Though obviously they must make sure that they're looking like they're making a massive profit from this show, though, obviously. You know, all profits go to a good cause. I'm going to go around the room for final thoughts. If you don't have any final thoughts, feel free to just move on. Elizabeth, do you have any final thoughts about this play? You came in halfway through, or a little over halfway through. It's relatively comprehensible in its own right, so you're not completely in the dark. But yeah, how did you find it?
Yeah, this is a funny one because I usually like everything we do. And I usually am always like, this is a great play, this is a great play, this is good, this is great. But this one I feel felt a little bit flat for me. Alan said we've done it better and we've done it before. So it's a play that we've kind of done this type of play before and we've done it better. And I really agree with Alan there. And then you said something that I thought was really great, Rob. You said it's speaking to its time. And I think unlike most of the plays we've done, this is very, very much of its time. There isn't almost that much that you can bring forward to now. But I did really enjoy Mother Croote. I thought Mother Croote was a hoot. But apart from that, it felt a little bit flat for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Francis, final thoughts. You were here yesterday.
I was here yesterday. Yeah, I've enjoyed this session much better than yesterday. I quite enjoyed playing All for Money. I just agree with you. This second half is much more interesting. I really wasn't looking forward to this afternoon session, and I'm probably not the only one, but I have enjoyed it. That said, I wouldn't rush to see a production of this play.
Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've just been looking at it and running out of blue pencils. My gut feeling on it is that scene 2, the scene with Satan, works very well as a piece. Scene 3, which is the legal disputation, works reasonably well, but for a different type of audience. Scene 5, I think, works quite well in its own right and could work as a standalone. The rest, I would end up on the cutting room floor. As far as I'm concerned.
I'm really interested in the idea of taking this as a starting point for a series of legal case studies, and then doing a heavily cut down sort of best bits for the second, for the second half of the evening. So you've got a sort of show to watch, which would follow sort of those lines. And I think that would be, something that has an educational range and therefore prefixes all the problematic bits, because there are a lot of problematic bits. It's like Elizabeth saying, I do like Mother Croote. I don't like what the play is doing with Mother Croote. I mean, there's a sort of fundamental difference. I think she as a human being is fabulous, and all power to her. But the way the play treats her, is not something I'd necessarily want to be throwing in front of an audience. Helen, any final thoughts?
Well, before we started, I'd been complaining about this play, and you said that I had, in a previous existence, been very enthusiastic about it, which I quite honestly couldn't understand, but now I do. I've now remembered why I'm so enthusiastic about this play, and it is that it is very, very interesting as a critique of the English legal system as it then stood. So that's my thing on it, and I'm starting to put together a list of plays with trial scenes, because there are a lot, because it's a very performative thing, it's a trial.
So we don't just have one event possibly coming up in the future. We have many. We'll have a series where we can come. It's always good to have something you can turn into a repeated thing. So yeah, keep that list handy, because I've been making my own list. So we should compare notes in the future when we can get into theatres again, which is the plan.
Or archives.
Yeah. Oh,
which
yes.
is also the plan.
All those things we want to do. Rachael, any final thoughts?
I think the little bits where they're just going in and out of All for Money's office are the most interesting part of this play, and it really is good at showing, that what Elizabeth said, that this really is a play of its time, and the misogynistic parts really come off so Handmaid's Tale like, but the rest of it is like something if you wanted to sell tickets to insomniacs to fall asleep to.
Oh, the disputations weren't that actually. The prologue bits of that were quite good. And actually, no, they really put a lot of very boring stuff to open the play with. It was a really, really bad. By the time we got to some interesting stuff, it got really, really. We were already a bit lost by that point. I'd lost the room before we got to the bits that were much more dynamic, like the stuff we've been doing with All for Money now. Helen, going back to you. I
read the prologue.
It was nothing to do with you, Helen.
It didn't do me any good.
I think I said after the prologue, there's some good lines in this. There's some good lines, but that, and then there's an awful lot of other lines. How many monies are there in that opening prologue? There's a lot of them. Eric, any final thoughts?
I was thinking it's interesting that it's one of those plays that has, sort of vice characters and that kind of thing, because it doesn't resolve itself as a morality play. Like, it's a kind of, it does, but it doesn't. Like, sin doesn't get punished for being the father of damnation, or damnation doesn't get punished. It's not that thing. There's no character who gets sort of carried away or led astray by anything. It's not that kind of play, which is quite interesting in some ways.
Yeah, the people who are damned have been damned for a very long time already. They're not someone within the narrative that these characters are leading astray or anything like that.
Yeah. And also there's it doesn't have, we've talked about how it doesn't really have a through plot, which is kind of, but it's interesting that we kind of, now that I feel like this has to be played at pace, because we seem to be focusing on the ending at the moment. I don't rather than maybe because it was more enjoyable. I don't know, or because we really liked the Satan bits yesterday, and then there was nothing else to remember. But it just feels very sort of like I don't know how it would work as a whole. Yeah.
The whole sin through line, what there is, between effectively the earlier sin episode and this sin episode do feel like a totality. They feel like they make sense, and they have a certain dynamism to them. The whole creation of money vomiting through the various creatures, and then their encounter with Satan feel of a piece with this stuff that we've got with All for Money now. Those are all very similar things. Finally, only for this session, Valentina, any final thoughts from you?
I think the main thing is, I know what you're saying when you're saying that it feels like it's a play of its time, but for me, maybe because I grew up in a different society that has a much more overt corruption, it's really relatable. Scene 5, I was like, yep, that happened. Yep, I can just, yeah. So maybe if you only do scene 5, I don't know, I've not seen the first part. Good fringe festival for, I don't know, Rome.
I think it's adaptable as well. I think you could take the opening creation of the money sin family into that scene, and that would work very well.
That's it.
Yeah, no. There is hope. There is hope. We end on a note of hope. I like to end in a positive way. And I think it's right. The play does set up at the beginning these very universal questions. I think the prologue does set out one very nice question. Who doth not wish for money? And that every day, I would I had thus much money, each one doth say. It's, there are questions in this that are universal, even if the application is not. And whether we can find a through line between the two and make that work in the future, I don't know. Only time will tell. All that remains is thank all the wonderful readers over today and, in fact, yesterday for all their wonderful work. Thank you very much and goodbye. His face doth shine as bright as the buttock of a bear.